of the program, and we invoke the blessings of beloved Baba by garlanding him. And I would request on behalf of all of you, Sridhar Bhai Sahab and Ward Park, to please come and garland Baba. अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। त्रिशा So before we start this session, we have to show our gratitude to yesterday's presentations. They were nice presentations, and besides this, in the 13th Legacy program, we have some more help from other groups. That is, the online program is there, and this team is working for Amar Tithi. They have done wonderful job for that online webcast, and that team has come to help us. So this is additional thing, and it is not that who is coming to help or what is the help. The most important thing is Baba's gradual manifestation in all these aspects, that these things are gradually developing and evolving. So that is one of the most important thing for which we should have gratitude, gratefulness for beloved Baba, that whatever work, little bit, is taken, that is gradually growing and more people are coming. In India, there's one concept, you know, Rabindranath Tagore. And Rabindranath Tagore's one of the songs is very important, and he says, puts emphasis on this aspect that when you start something, you are alone, and you should do the things alone. But now that concept is also Baba changing, that you cannot do alone, you cannot remove the mountain, you cannot lift the mountain, you need a team. So gradually, this is moving towards Baba's 700 years next incarnation. So till that, it should continue to grow. And how it will grow, more and more people come and support each group. And they should not be identified with a particular team or particular department or particular committee. They should be all working conjointly without any distinction for Baba's cause. So we are grateful for this, and this we can witness these manifestations. They should be actually imprinted in our heart, and that marks his presence. So with this, now we start today's proceedings, and our first presentation is from Australia, Ross Keating. So Patrick, can we have that?
In 1954, during the 3 incredible weeks, Bill LePage, prompted by Francis Brabazon, asked Baba if he would come to Australia. Baba looked directly at Bill and replied, "Do you think..." In 1954, during the 3 In 1954, In 1954, during the 3 incredible weeks, Bill LePage, prompted by Francis Brabazon, asked Baba if he would come to Australia. Baba looked directly at Bill and replied, "Do you think I am not already there?" Bill was silenced by this answer. In 1954, during the 3 incredible weeks, Bill LePage, prompted by Francis Brabazon, asked Baba if he would come to Australia. Baba looked directly at Bill and replied, "Do you think I am not already there?" Bill was silenced by this answer. Perhaps Baba was reaffirming what he had elsewhere stated, "I am in everything, I am everything, and I am beyond everything. Then it was not until about a year and a half later, in April 1956, that Money wrote to Francis stating that Baba wished to visit Australia in August 1956. Soon after he arrived, Baba gave 3 specific reasons for his visit. Number 1, to sow the seed of love in this country. Number 2, to visit and stay in the house we had built for him. And number 3, to gather into his love those of us who had loved him a little and had done a little work for him. Francis saw Baba's first reason for coming, to sow the seed of love in this country, as deeply significant. This is reflected in the title of the small pamphlet he wrote to celebrate this event, the birth of the nation. In this pamphlet, Francis does not detail what Baba said or did during his stay, but how it was a threshold moment in the history of Australia. The pamphlet shows Francis as a kind of prophetic national poet. The first sign of Francis adopting this role is in 1953. It is in the opening poem of his collection Proletarian's Transition, his first publication after he first met Baba in 1952. The poem reads, "It took a long time to make a man and a woman, perfect instruments capable of his divine music. Present Australians, who amongst you will study the notes of this music? Who amongst you will be singers of this new song to which I am giving only the initial drum beat?" And Francis continued this role even after his return to Australia in 1969, after living for 10 years in India as one of Baba's intimate disciples. For instance, in the 70s, he submitted an entry, music and lyrics, in a contest for a new Australian national anthem. In his anthem, Francis has all Australians singing directly to God, as seen in this verse. "Make ripe our nationhood and all we do, and us ever your favours to pursue. Make us one people, loving, gentle, strong, whose lives are notes in your eternal song." But more revealing are the lines from an earlier unpublished poem written sometime before 1959, The Arrow of Song, in which Francis sees Australia as situated on a global song line along the path of an arrow of song that begins in Calcutta and travels around the world and ends up in Australia. The path of this arrow is through countries in which Francis sees a love for God flourishing in song and art. The poem begins, "Some queer trick of bigotry has caused us, Australians, to identify ourselves with the West. Australia, the most eastern of the continents, that our sun-tanned youth have more in common with the grey faces of London and New York than with the brown faces of the Andhras and Mexicans. Draw a line from Calcutta to Madrid and you have one culture, a common note in their music, and the same tendency to devotion, the same love singing in the work of their hands, a music sung to one's own heart, personal and delicate, born of the honey on the name of God in one's mouth." And then after following the trajectory of this arrow of song through several countries, it ends in Australia. "And west again, and you come to the most east, Australia of beaches and plains, where the song was once sung from white throats in black bodies, was murdered in order to make room for gramophones and radios, but will be resown with sparks from the golden word of God speaking. For Francis, Meherabad coming to Australia and the planting of his seed of love in this country was equivalent to the re-sowing of his shining golden word. This is seen in the opening lines from the poem included in the birth of the nation. Now has come the moment of joy in this land, the moment it has waited in woman waiting through the ages, the moment of Baba and the touch of his feet on her earth, and the seal of his glance to her sun-adoring eyes, and the rivers of his silent word to her thirsty lips and the cry of her soul. The pamphlet itself is brief, consisting of a small introductory prose section leading into a poem. The poem entitled Now Has Come the Moment of Joy, Francis wrote before Baba's visit. The introductory section was written after Baba had left Sydney. The only factual details about Baba's visit that are mentioned are his arrival at Mascot Airport at 3:45 p.m. on the 9th of August 1956. The rest is concerned with the spiritual significance of Baba's visit for all Australians and even for its unique flora and fauna and the land itself. Let me highlight what I consider to be some of the significance of what Francis wrote. Firstly, the use of the word nation in the title. Baba himself has talked about nations as having different qualities and even roles to play in the world. For instance, in 1932, he said of India, "India is a spiritual country. It possesses the most fortunate and unique position in the world, being the land of saints and spiritual masters for ages. Therefore, the spiritual atmosphere of India must be kept up even at the cost of being in bondage and material unhappiness. It does not matter how much India suffers as long as its spiritual power and value are retained. Moreover, the results of its present suffering will be freedom and happiness." And of America, Baba gave an implied warning when he said that America has great energy, but a great deal of it is misdirected. And misdirected energy produces destructive complexes, and these in turn produce fear, greed, lust and anger, which results in moral and spiritual decay. Regarding Australia, Baba said in 1956 that he came to sow the seed of love in this country. This statement stands in contrast to what he said in 1954 in his final declaration and is often quoted. "I have come to sow the seed of love in your hearts." So what does it mean that Baba sowed his seed of love in a country? Does it mean a new nation will begin to grow in Australia? And what will this new nation look like? In his pamphlet, Francis gives his interpretation of Baba's profound words. At the beginning of the pamphlet, Francis calls Baba's arrival in Australia an event with a capital E, thus signalling to the reader that he is dealing with its spiritual significance. He writes, "This event, with a capital E, which a few of us has longed for consciously, and all people and things unconsciously, which the land itself, the plains and mountains, the deserts and fertile areas, the forests and streams and rivers, and the unique kookaburra and kangaroo and platypus had dreamed of and hoped for, occurred." In his use of the word dreamed, Francis is possibly making a passing reference to the culture of the First Nations people of this land, the Aboriginal inhabitants, and their sacred mythic dreamtime stories, in which all the creatures and land formations of Australia are revealed as having their own unique spiritual dreaming or inner life. He is also alluding to something Baba has said in God Speaks about the mysterious role of the Avatar. Baba says, "It is very difficult to grasp the entire meaning of the word avatar. For mankind, it is easy and simple to declare that the avatar is God, and that it means that God becomes man. But this is not all that the word avatar means or conveys. It would be more appropriate to say that the avatar is God, and that God becomes man for all mankind, and simultaneously God also becomes a sparrow for all sparrows in creation, an ant for all ants in creation, a pig for all pigs in creation, a particle of dust for all dust in creation, for each and everything that is in creation." In the second paragraph, Francis begins with the sentence, "The most vital and the most contemporary occurrence had occurred." This can only be the mysterious occurrence of something that is the source of life outside of time, that is eternal, appearing in time. Francis affirms this later in the paragraph when he writes, "The timeless had made for itself an accommodation in time, and entered into that accommodation to put there that seed, the tree and fruit of which will be called history. The conception of a new nation had occurred." This is the capital E event. In the ancient past, this event would have been conveyed and passed on as some kind of mythic narrative in which a god appears and performs a creative act around which a particular people would form a living culture. In Francis's case, the narrative has shifted into real time, as real as night and day, and the god in this instance is in human form, the avatar of the age, and the planting of his seed of love is his great creative act. To signal the actuality of this most vital and most contemporary occurrence and its repercussions for all Australians, Francis announces that the conception of a new nation has occurred. Also within this paragraph, Francis describes Baba as light. This is a metaphor that he often uses to point the reader to that preconceptual, intuitively perceived, non-material reality which is beyond the mind and which cannot be understood but only experienced by becoming one with it. Francis sees this light as the dynamic unconscious driver behind all human activities, not just in art, but in science, economics, and politics. It is like a perfume that permeates the whole fabric of life. Francis writes, "That light which art was trying to discover and express, which science was trying to uncover and channel into a wider vision and an improved living, which economy attempted to add up and distribute, and over which politics wrangled and self-interest wished to corner and appropriate, that light had come to this country. In a sense, all of these different worldly pursuits, at their most fundamental level, are the outcome of the play of light." In the next paragraph, Francis changes the metaphor and calls Meher Baba's luminous presence the image of reality and love, and states that during his 5-day stay in Australia, this image imprinted itself on the hearts of those around him. This imprinting could be described as a form of awakening, another birth, another capital E event. Then in the pamphlet, Francis enters into a commentary on what all this means, not only for those present in 1956, but for anyone who now feels Baba's imprint in their own heart. This image of reality and love, Francis states, is a constant challenge to our thinking and loving and working, and adds, "No worker has ever attained that actionless action of work, that purity of loving, or that honesty of thinking which leaves no stain or false image in his own mind or in the mind of others, without the inspiration of this image and its measurement. Reading between these lines, Francis is outlining an implied process. The image of reality and love in the heart inspires the worker, and this automatically begins to shape itself into a felt outline in the mind, into a certain pattern, a shape, a rhythm, or in other words, a measurement of what is to be made, which is then fully shaped in the working process. In this way, the light of beauty, of dynamic quality, of the image of reality and love enters into the work and can subsequently affect those who come in contact with it. For Francis, what is required is a kind of heart thinking, integral and integrated thinking, and an action which flows in one continuous movement from inspiration to execution. This for him is the way of great art, or to use his term, real living. Francis's use of the word art is not limited to the fine arts, but incorporates any action that has inspiration as its source and is done right. Francis explains that the doing right part begins with nothing less than the cleaning of the heart, so it can more effectively reflect the image of reality and love. In no uncertain terms, he states that this is done by sweeping away the rubbish of self-expression and eliminating the nonsense of precious feelings and opinions of separative personality. In Stay with God, which Francis began in earnest after Baba left Sydney in 1956, he elaborates further on this point and suggests that art done in this way opens the artist to saintship. Here is the quote. "There is a little flame in the heart, shrouded in smoke, which reddens the eye to squint seeing, or clear, which burns up self-rubbish, so that sight becomes keen and the path opens to art and saintship." In contrast to Meher Baba's visit to Sydney in 1956 is Billy Graham's visit 3 years later in 1959, in which a third of the Australian population, about 3 million people, attended one of his crusade events in person. Billy Graham said he felt moved by the Holy Spirit to visit the distant continent of Australia. Understandably, many Christian Australians saw this event as the spiritual birth of the nation. Francis's idea of nation, however, does not consist of following some belief system or ideology, no matter how stirring. Rather, it is the awakening in a person's heart of an inner connection to their own divinity, and if this also occurs in other people's hearts, then as a natural consequence, a new nation will be formed. In this light, Francis saw Baba's planting of his seed of love in this country as a moment of joy in this land, as the beginning of a new spiritual direction in Australia. For anyone in Australia who works with some attempted reverence and love, no matter if they know of Baba or not, according to Francis, Baba will be present with them as the light of their forward-goingness. Francis makes this claim, for he sees Baba as the one for whom all reverence ultimately is due, and as the source of all love and light. Or from another angle, all reverence and love ultimately leads to Baba and shines forth from him. Francis completed his pamphlet with a poem, which ends with the issue of what he calls surrenderance. Surrenderance is not a word that exists in the English language. He could have used the alternative word surrender, but obviously he felt that this did not express what he wanted to say. Surrender suggests the idea of a giving over in defeat to an opponent after a battle has been lost. Surrenderance, on the other hand, as I read Francis's use of the word, is a victorious gesture that is freely given, a liberation that occurs when the precious feelings and opinions of separative personality have been eliminated, as the beginning of real living. Here is the last verse. But now is not the history, but the moment of God and his advent in this land of Australia, the touch of his feet on this earth, and the breath of his word on the breeze and in the breath of our lives. The moment long waited, the moment of joy and apprehension, when each leaf and each piece of earth and stone on whom and on which falls his glance must decide the issue of surrenderance and lay down that much of his life as he will. On the 20th of February 1957, Mani, Baba's sister, wrote to Bill LePage about the birth of the nation. Mani writes, "Although by now we expect such writing from Francis, we couldn't help being caught anew by the beauty of it. I read it to Baba, and he kept saying how good it was, and had it read to the Mundali." Jai Baba.
Jai Mayor Baba. This is Mayor House, Sydney, where beloved Baba This is Mayor House, Sydney, where beloved Baba came in 1956 for the very first time to Australia. We have here the area where the car came in, and Baba came out of the car, stood on this rock here to greet people, and then walked into the house. This is the step that that you see him standing on in the photos of Baba at Mayor House. And now we go into the house to go into Baba's room. We're just taking off our shoes here to go into Baba's room. This is where he slept and where he met people, greeted people, where he was interviewed by a reporter, and also where a play was performed for him, a play written by Francis Brabazon. Francis, this place was called back then the Beacon Hill property. It was Francis's dream to create a center for beloved Baba and to build a house that, or to build a place that would last for 700 years. So this room and another room off the house is made of solid stone from the site that the house is built on. In the 1960s, Baba named the house Meher House, and in giving it his name, as Francis explained, he made it one of his places. And on various occasions, beloved Baba did say that Meher House was one of his places and should never be sold. And of course, to make sure that that never happened, that it was never sold, Bill LePage, who was given the job of caretaker for Meher House from 1954, has placed the house in a trust to be held in perpetuity as a place of pilgrimage for all lovers of Meher Baba and for anyone who might be interested in him. Another important place in Meher House is the kitchen. Now, when Baba came, of course, he would have used the kitchen. This part of the house has been renovated. There was a kitchen and a bathroom in this space, but the kitchen is this area here, 9 feet by 9 feet it was when Baba came. And there's a beautiful story from his his day visit here in 1958 after leaving Avatar's abode and before flying back to India. He had a meal here with his four Mandali who accompanied him on this trip and 4 Australian men, Francis Brabazon, Bill LePage, Robert Rouse and John Bruford. This meal was the highlight of this visit, with Baba sitting nearby directing Bill how to cook fish in a small pan on a primer stove, a block of cheese and bread, and Baba would cut the bread, a slice of cheese, and directing Bill a piece of fish and a piece of cheese on a piece of bread was given by Baba to each of the men at this time, a very special, memorable and significant occasion. For many years, of course, Meher House had the dual role of being a centre and a family home as directed by Baba. Bill and his family, his wife Joan and 3 children lived here, and Baba always said to live here in a natural family way, and so there was always that family feel, and there still is, of this being a little like a lounge room where we can come and just be with Baba in a family and informal way. And how blessed we are to have this place, which he blessed and said was one of his places and should never be sold. Jai Baba.
Avatar Meher Baba's warning to his lovers from 1957. After Meher Baba's second automobile collision near Satara on the 2nd of December 1956, he decided to spend some of the hot Indian summer in Pune. At the end of April, he began staying with some of the Mandali in Guru Prasad Palace, which had been offered for his use by Maharani Shanta Devi Gaikwad. Baba wished to hold a meeting in Guru Prasad on Sunday, the 19th of May, 1957, with the Mandali and his close male lovers from Ahmednagar, Pune, and Bombay to issue a warning. 47 persons were called for the meeting, which began that day at 8 a.m. Digambar Gadekar and Bal Natu took notes. Baba asked those present whether they had slept well that night, adding that those who had not should not doze during the proceedings. He told them, "As for me, I had no sleep, for I had to do some important spiritual work. From the time of the accident, I have been continuously suffering severe physical pains. Tell me, from my face, how do I look now?" The majority said that Baba's face appeared as cheerful as ever. Moments later, Baba remarked, "You have been called here, but the question before me is, why have I called you, and what should I convey?" Everyone laughed. Baba asked the Pune workers to stand and inquired about those not invited. He instructed that those who were not invited should come to Guru Prasad that day at 2 p.m. and leave after Baba had embraced them. Baba commented about his fractured hip and how well it was progressing. Dr. Deshmukh requested Baba to take care of his body, to which Baba replied, "I have come again and again in flesh and blood to bear the sufferings of humanity." After a few more preliminary statements, as Erich continued to interpret his gestures, Baba began. "I want to tell you one important thing which each of you must remember well. It is a fact that I am the Lord of the universe. I am omnipresent. Now the time is fast approaching, and I clearly see the dark cloud hovering. I see its picture. By this, I am not referring to the recent motor accident that has already come to pass. The humiliation that I was referring to for many years is within sight. During that phase of my life, there is every possibility that I may slip out of your hands. Now let me first explain what I mean by humiliation. Suppose you are loved by someone very dearly for several years, and one day when you happen to meet him, he suddenly begins to abuse you, kick you, and spit in your face. In the context of your previous relationship with him, your plight becomes an example of humiliation. In the same way, if some persons who have previously adored me and raised me up to the skies in adoration for years suddenly turn against me and express extreme disdain for me by throwing me in filth, it will be another example of humiliation. I will also give you an example of circumstances under which this kind of a thing can happen. You are worshipping me for so many years. Suppose you suddenly find me eating rubbish and roaming about naked in the streets, behaving like a madman. What will be your reaction to this behavior of mine? I don't want any one of you to think or say that Baba is going to become mad. On the contrary, I have come to make the whole world mad after God and truth. Only the Avatar, whenever he lives amidst mankind, has to undergo humiliation. When there are 5 perfect masters, who are God personified, and who control and look after the affairs of the universe, what need is there for them to precipitate the incarnation of God on earth? They bring him down to shoulder the sufferings of humanity. The 5 perfect masters are not as much scandalized or humiliated as the Avatar. I have been made to take this form by the 5 perfect masters of this age, to bear the cross and to undergo humiliation. You have read in the Gospels wherein Christ had said to his apostles, "You will deny me." This did happen when Peter, the chief apostle, denied Jesus. The thing is that during the phase of humiliation, the circumstances will go so awry that you will not be aware when my daemon has slipped out of your hands. At that time, you may even feel justified in leaving me. But if you feel that this should not happen, there is one remedy. You should grasp well all of what I say and understandingly live up to it. You should also tell everything that you hear today to those who are not present. In short, I clearly see the dark cloud. I don't wish to make a mere mention of the dark cloud without any reason, but this is my loving warning to you so that my daemon may not slip out of your hands. Today, I also wish to tell you about some other important points. I will start with the topic of saints. These days, this point is often brought to my notice from the letters I receive from my lovers. Some write, "Baba, you often go into seclusion for long periods. Very rarely we get an opportunity to have your sahavas. We are not even allowed to have your darshan for months together." This often makes us feel inclined to visit saints and be in their company. They also ask me whether they should follow certain instructions given by the saints. A few days back, a wife of one of my devotees wrote to me that a certain person, who called himself a saint, told her that he was ordered by me to guard their house and that he loved me very much. Apart from the truth of this statement, the point which struck me is that if such things were to continue, anybody could approach my devotees and may even demand hundreds of rupees in my name and thus may easily deceive them. To declare whether a man is a real saint or an imitation is my right alone and not yours. At this point, one man interjected, "Baba, we go to saints because we have a feeling that you are in everyone." Baba replied, "I am also in a thief and a murderer. Then what is it that prevents you to respect and worship them? If you were to see me everywhere as I really am, there would be no need for you to go to saints, or even to come to me to pay your respects. I have been declaring all the time, age after age, that when I, the Ancient One, assume human form, there are many false prophets who claim themselves to be avatars. For instance, a week ago I received a letter from Uttar Pradesh. A devotee writes that there are 2 persons in his town and each proclaims himself as Avatar of the Age. This created a great deal of confusion in his mind. Also, in one of the towns in northern India, there is a social worker who claims, and has genuine feeling of his claim, that he is the Avatar. I am telling you all these things in detail, for it is my right alone to say so, as all of them are my children. As far as you are concerned, you should neither criticize nor indulge in backbiting such persons. If you speak ill of a real saint, it will be harmful for you. You will create dreadful sanskaric bindings. You should avoid scandalizing even the so-called Mahatmas who call themselves saints, because it is not possible for you to be certain whether they are real or not. The presumptuous saints outwardly act like real saints. You will not be able to differentiate between them, just in the same way that you are not able to differentiate between the musts and mad persons. Yet what a world of difference lies in their inner states. Coming back to the point of real saints, I would like you to know that to become a saint is not child's play. The very word saint, when commonly used or applied to anyone, creates a lot of misunderstanding. I will now tell you something that will clear up the misunderstandings regarding saints. There are two types of saints, real saints and imitation saints. Just as an ordinary person cannot distinguish between a real and an imitation pearl, you cannot distinguish between a real saint and an imitation saint. I alone, like a jeweler, can make out the difference. Particularly in India, we find a lot of imitation saints, and this is due to the superficial study of Vedanta. By studying Vedanta, one can say, I am God. Sadgurus also say, I am God. Imitation saints also say the same thing, but with the help of Vedanta. Real saints need no such help. They say what they experience. There are also some who, after reading Vedanta, realize that they have no such experience, but they still say, I am God. This is hypocrisy. There are also some imitation saints who, after reading Vedanta, have a genuine inner feeling and say, I am God, although in reality they have no conscious experience. If anyone confers greatness on you and begins to worship you and garland you, you know yourself that you do not deserve it. At the outset, you are tempted to accept this greatness which makes you feel happy, but your conscience will be consciously pricking you, and you will always be in a state of anxiety about future developments. You will frequently be in a fix either to accept or reject the greatness which is thrust on you. Once you accept this conferred greatness, it becomes very difficult for you to get out of the situation. After a time, the pricks of conscience even cease troubling you, for you get used to them. Then it becomes an addiction, and you cannot do without it. You then pose as a real saint. This posing will cause you to take additional innumerable births. So why pose as a saint without the inner experience? As for myself, I say I am the highest of the high. Had I not been the Ancient One, I would have encouraged you to visit the so-called saints. I would have even praised them, and they also would have praised me in return. In this way, a clique would be formed that would promote mutual praise to dupe the public. If any one of you meets an imitation saint or an imitation avatar, what would he say to you? He would say the same thing as I do. If you tell him that Baba is the avatar, he may even say, I am the real one and Meher Baba is a fraud. When anyone approaches an imitation saint and is attracted by the outward atmosphere which he creates about him, and if owing to his faith in the imitation saint he gets experiences, he is likely to attribute them to that imitation saint. This creates confusion. Now I'll tell you about an incident. During my last visit to America, a gentleman who has been staying in America for a long time remained by my side during some of my programs, and particularly when the films and photographs were taken. This gentleman has studied and intellectually grasped what I have said, but has misused it. From one of the letters from the USA, I hear that this gentleman has started telling people that he is Baba's representative. Those who know me for so many years are not affected, but the new lovers, though educated, are very much impressed and flock around him. Just see how even the Westerners are misled. What is the remedy for this? I will explain now. It will be very useful to you only if you grasp it thoroughly. If all of you are convinced that Baba is the avatar, God incarnate, the question of confusion does not arise at all. In this case, just hold fast to my Dhamman and close all doors to prevent confusion and conflict from entering your minds. If you are not convinced, leave me. Seek someone else. But if you try to stick to me with a wavering mind, without being convinced of my divinity, you would be just like a nut caught in the crusher. I will also tell you a few instances of those who pay too much attention to musts, though they have been connected with me for so many years. One of them even went to the extent of drinking toddy whenever offered by a must. Another one, Dr. Deshmukh, used to carry a certain must on his shoulders to his home and serve him daily. Had I not warned them in time, they would have gotten themselves seriously involved with those musts. When God Himself has descended on the earth and you have the fortune to come into personal contact with Him, why run after His children, the musts and the saints? In Uttar Pradesh and the Punjab, there are saints of both types, real and imitation. There, men put up a big show of spirituality by performing Homa Havan, Bhajan Kirtan, Yajna Yaga, Arti Puja, and so forth. From external appearance, one cannot make out who is a real saint and who is an imitation one. Anyone is easily impressed by the outward so-called spiritual atmosphere. You do not find such things here with me. Instead, you see me sitting among you, sometimes cutting jokes and letting you laugh. The real path is totally different from the conventional Bhajan Kirtan, Homa Havan, Sadra Kasti, Namaz Naza, etc. On the contrary, when one gets entangled in these rituals and ceremonies, one gets off the real path. When I tell you these things and ask you not to visit other saints, perhaps some of you may think, is Baba feeling jealous of others? But I, being one without a second, have no rival. I am matchless. I being the one reality, the question of rivalry does not arise at all. If at all I am to be jealous, I will have to be jealous of my own self. When a man sees an ant moving on the ground, will he ever feel jealous of it? Both the ant and the man move on the same level on the ground, but there is a world of difference in their consciousness. For instance, the ant can never understand the intricacies of this machine age. The ant, the ordinary man, and myself move on the same earth, but there is as much difference between the consciousness of an ordinary man and that consciousness of mine as there is between the consciousness of an ant and that of an ordinary man. Even in the animal kingdom, there is a vast difference between the consciousness of an ant and an elephant. Has an elephant ever purposely walked on an ant, feeling jealous of it? One of my devotees expressed an ardent desire to see a particular must of Bombay, while a few others appear much concerned about the claim made by someone else who asserts that he is the avatar of the age. This makes me curious why you, of all the persons who regard me as the highest of the high, should run after other personalities. Concerning this matter, Baba referred to and had an extract from a letter read out at this time, wherein he had stated, "No one is to be blamed. It is no one's fault. It was the original whim and the original urge of God that has started this divine game, which He can also enjoy at His own cost." Then Baba continued gesturing. I do not mean that there are no real saints in India. There are some well-known saints, and there are some real saints that are unknown to the masses. Compared with the known saints, these hidden saints are far more advanced. In this respect, however, I want to tell you with authority that both the hidden and the known saints have not realized the self. Do not be misled by the use of certain words and phrases. If anyone addresses you as "dear self," do not be under the impression that he has achieved the goal of realization. The sum and substance of this long talk is that you either hold fast to my Dhamman and me only, or leave me altogether. Do not make any compromise. However, you are free to pay homage to and visit the shrines of my 5 perfect masters, Sai Baba, Upasni Maharaj, Hazrat Brabazon, Tajuddin Baba, and Narayan Maharaj. Out of my 5 perfect masters, 4 do not have any representatives. Only Upasni Maharaj has a representative. She is Godavari Mai. She has a very pure heart, and there is no equal to her in this respect. You can go to Sakuri and pay your respects to her. She is very dear to me. She loves me very much. She is my beloved Yashoda. This does not mean that my 5 perfect masters do not have a chargeman and a close circle. Invariably, without any exception, every perfect master must necessarily hand over his charge to one man whom he makes as perfect as himself. Such a one is called the chargeman of the perfect master. Do not visit other ashrams or saints, because you cannot distinguish between a real saint and an imitation one. I also wish that you do not criticize or scandalize any person. If you happen to meet saints, real or imitation, by chance, you may pay respects to them, but do not run after them. If you have full faith in me, stick to me. Otherwise, leave me now once and for all. Baba asked, "Who will hold my Dhamman wholeheartedly to the end?" Everyone there raised their hands to express their willingness. But one man said, "Somehow or other, my heart cannot accept the idea of Paramatma becoming and living as a man on earth. I believe in Krishna, but only as a part of Paramatma. However, if like Arjun I am blessed with Vishwaswarup Darshan, seeing the Avatar's universal body, I feel I will get the necessary conviction." Hearing this, Baba smiled and retorted, "So now we are bargaining in spirituality? I should give you some sort of vision so that you will believe in me 100%? That is a poor bargain. It was nothing short of weakness on my part as Krishna to have convinced Arjun that I was divine by exposing my identity as Paramatma through Vishwaswarup Darshan." Baba continued to explain, by itself, any experience, small or great, ultimately amounts to 0 compared with God realization. Some lovers in the West who regard me as God incarnate write to me about their rare experiences. But those too have no real importance. Although it is heartening to have experiences, it is very dangerous to attach too much importance to them and to indulge in them. Baba ended the explanation and discussion of this subject by remarking, "I am sure that the points in question have been made sufficiently clear to you." Some of the men came forward and spontaneously offered monetary amounts. Baba instructed one of the Pune men to utilize most of the contributed amounts for the feeding of poor boys, and directed that a portion of the total contribution be sent for a newly opened center, but making it clear that he did not give money expecting work for him in return. Then he joked, "It is easier for my lovers to give their heads than to give money." Baba then spent some time discussing the activities of various groups and centers dedicated to him, stressing the importance of an attitude of unity and cooperation among his workers. He reminded the men, "If you want to further my cause, there is no escape but to become like dust in my work. There cannot be any compromise. Each of my lovers must become like dust. Then people of their own accord will flock around him, and his own life will radiate my message of love to others." After explaining to the attendees about the Sahavas congregation that was planned to be held at Merabad in February of 1958, Baba concluded the meeting by again lovingly stressing, "It is a fact that I am God. I am the highest of the high. I wish that those who raised their hands hold fast to my Daman for good. There is no need for my lovers to visit saints. Stick to me even during the phase of humiliation. Spread my message of love among all and become like dust in Baba's work."
of Meher Baba's 6 visits to America, his last 2, in 1956 and 1958, were unique. They were Sahavases. Meher Baba had never held a Sahavas in America before. It was something his Western lovers had never experienced. But in 1956, Baba interrupted his work in seclusion to share his intimate companionship in Sahavas with his lovers in the West. Baba specifically arranged for the American portion of his tour to be filmed and preserved for future generations, so that everyone might see and share his Sahavas, his divinely human company. This program offers a selection of these Sahavas glimpses. These moments are an Avataric treasure, the gift of his presence. Baba said, "All that you find here at Myrtle Beach is Elizabeth Patterson's labor of love. After I drop my body, it will become a place of pilgrimage, for it has Baba's heart in it."
Meher Baba, Meher Baba. Meher Baba, Meher Baba, Meher Baba. Meher Baba, Meher Baba, Meher Baba. Meher Baba, Meher Baba.
At Mayor Mount, Baba said, "Next to Myrtle Beach, I love this place best. This land is very old. I have been here before. I will come here again."
Meher Baba, Meher Baba, Meher Baba. Meher Baba, Meher Baba, Meher Baba. Meher Baba, Meher Baba, Meher Baba. Meher Baba, Meher Baba.
After his serious auto accident in India in December 1956, Baba was rarely able to walk unaided. Nonetheless, he made the long journey to the West one more time to give his Sahavas in Myrtle Beach in May of 1958, his last visit to America. Baba told his lovers, "This Sahavas will be unique in the sense that you will witness and share my suffering."
Meherabad
A birthday party with cake and lemonade was held for the many children who had come with their parents to see Baba. Baba said of the house built for him here, "Of all places in the world, I feel most comfortable in this house." As in 1952 and 1956, Baba again went to the beach and dipped his feet into the Atlantic Ocean. Baba said the purpose of Sahavas was to give you my closest company in order to bring out the oneness between us.
अब क्या बताऊं मैं, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला। अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला। अब क्या बताऊं मैं, अब क्या।
Sahavas means the give and take of love. I am the only beloved, and you are all my lovers. I am the only lover, and you are all my beloveds. It is I alone who bow down to myself and embrace myself. It is I who smile, I who weep. It is Baba who sits on the dais, and it is Baba squatting on the floor of the pandal. Baba meets Baba. Baba comforts Baba. It is Baba who pats each one lovingly, and it is Baba who is being patted. It is all Baba, Baba, Baba. This is my experience of the Sahavas.
इरफान गम हुआ मुझे दिल का पता मिला, इरफान गम हुआ मुझे दिल का पता मिला। अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला।
The 1958 Sahavas was unique in many ways. As I had said, that this is the first Sahavas in which Baba was gracious to permit his lady disciples to avail of the opportunity, this divine opportunity. And the second important aspect of this Sahavas to my mind is it was probably one of the first Sahavas during which Baba's birthday was celebrated, because that memorable event also took place during this Sahavas period. And the third important aspect of this Sahavas is, to my mind, that it was the last Sahavas that Baba had organized in Meherabad. Before the Sahavas had started, Baba had mentioned that when you come to the Sahavas, you devote your entire attention to me. You forget your worries, your whatever responsibilities and whatever things that may have bothering you in your home, at your respective places. You forget everything and you take the maximum advantage of my company and maximum advantage of your fortune of being in my company.
The main thing about it was the atmosphere. To me it was like, being in midst of a tremendously large family. And I do not know about others, but I can very honestly say for myself that in that particular tent, Samya and all, I had no thought or anything like that about, caste, or this man is Hindu, or this man is Muslim, or I am Parsi, nothing like that. Beloved Baba's presence was so very infinitely powerful that all such minor details completely disappeared. And literally every one of us would greet like we were long lost brothers.
The most important aspect of Sahavas has always been, according to me, it's a love feast gathering. Baba had said, forget everything, be very intimate and just think of me. It is intimacy with the God-man. You see, I am coming to your level now and holding this Sahavas for this reason only, so that we can have an intimate gathering of all Baba lovers. It's not you are just meeting me, because my lovers are also there. And particularly 1958 program was where women also were participating.
After the final declaration meeting in 1954 and the men's Meherabad Sahavas in 1955, Baba was besieged by women in the families of his lovers, pleading to have a chance to enjoy his presence at a Sahavas. Their longings would finally be fulfilled at the Meherabad Sahavas of 1958.
We were taken to Merabad. And I was very surprised that after we checked in, we found all the beds for us. It was not on the ground. And Baba had arranged that let my lovers have a bed each, And at that time, to get all these beds for how many people? We were, I think, about 750 to 1,000 people. That's what we heard. We had, and the mattress and everything, sheets, pillows, everything that Baba had provided us. And we were really very surprised.
Pandal was full of people. There were no chairs. Everybody had to sit on the floor. And we were all young at that time. We were able to sit very comfortably. I still remember my sister Dhan was brought over. For her sake, only one chair was brought and she was made to sit on that.
At the same time that Baba was making plans for a women's Sahavas, Baba was also making plans for a combined East-West Sahavas. During his visit to the Meher Center in Myrtle Beach in 1956, Baba indicated that before he broke his silence, he would like to have a Sahavas which could be attended by his lovers from both the East and the West. During that time of excitement among Baba's lovers for an anticipated combined East-West Sahavas, the unexpected news of Baba's second car accident in Satara reached them. This was a terrible shock to everyone, and the opportunity for the upcoming Sahavas seemed to have quickly and dismally vanished. Baba's second car accident brought tremendous physical and mental suffering to Baba. But as soon as he began to recover, he started planning the Sahavas again. But now the possibility of 3 separate Sahavas were discussed. And in late November 1957, Baba decided that an Eastern Sahavas would be in Merabad in February 1958, and 2 Western Sahavas would be held. One in Myrtle Beach in May, and then an Australian Sahavas in June 1958. Baba said that whether he has pain or not, the Sahavas would happen. He told his Mandali that while working in his name, one should have faith in him. But it was a time of suffering for Baba. Baba had daily fevers, and his hip pain persisted. Nevertheless, Baba informed all the group heads via telegram that the Sahavas would be held in spite of his physical health. From the 9th of February, Baba started visiting Merabad daily to check on the progress of the arrangements. Meticulous arrangements were made by Pendu with the assistance of Bao, Padri and others. 2 separate tents for men and women were erected on the east side of the Rahuri cabin. A dining tent to accommodate 1,000 people was also erected. A large darshan pandal was erected for the meetings. A dais at the east end of the darshan pandal was constructed for Baba's seat. Behind Baba's seat, there were large photographs of the 5 perfect masters surrounding Baba's photo in the center. The entire camp was connected with electricity and water taps. The Eastern Sahavas was scheduled for 2 weeks, between 14th and 26th of February. Each week would be attended by 2 language groups.
This time Baba decided that he would still have language groups, but instead of splitting them into 4 different groups, he could combine 2 groups of each section and call them together. So in the first group, Baba decided that he would have the Hindi and Marathi groups together. and in the second group to have the Telugu and the Gujarati and the rest together. Of course, English was the main language that was used to give out Baba's, to interpret Baba's gestures, and then there would be translators who would translate them into those languages.
Finally, the day of the Sahavas arrived. Over 750 Hindi and Marathi-speaking lovers arrived at Merabad on Friday afternoon, February 14th. Women were included in the Sahavas for the first time. But a seed of doubt was sown in the hearts of the Sahavasis whether Baba would show up for the Sahavas. The evening before, they received a word from Baba that because of his hip pain and fever, he may not come to Merabad on the first day of the Sahavas. Amidst their doubts, Baba arrived there at 8 a.m. He got down from the car and, using crutches, he walked to the dais in the Darshan Pandal. Baba stated,
"This Sahavas will be unique in the sense that you will witness and share my present universal suffering by being near me as my fortunate companions."
With the help of Erich and Kaka, limped to the dais.
"I may give you more, much more, than you expect, or maybe nothing, and that nothing may prove to be everything. So I say, come with open hearts to receive much or nothing from your divine beloved. Come prepared to receive not so much of my words, but of my silence."
Baba began the Sahavas by saying,
"This will be the last Sahavas, so I want you to be happy and draw as much of my love as possible. Make the most of this opportunity. I am the ocean of love. It rests with you to draw as much love as you can from the ocean. It does not rest with me to explain to you how to love me. Try to understand this. Suppose a man loves a woman, and vice versa. Is it ever possible for the man to tell the woman, or the woman to tell the man how they should love each other? One thing is certain. I want to give you as much of my love as possible, but it rests with you to receive it. The easiest way is for you to forget your home, family, and worldly affairs when you are here and try to be receptive to my love. This is the first thing required to absorb the maximum of my love. The second thing is to feel completely comfortable, have a good night's rest, sleep well each night, so that when you come daily for my Sahavas, you will feel fresh. I am God, and if you doze in my presence, you will miss me, and your drowsiness will force you to remain absent from my presence in spite of your daily attendance. The meaning of Sahavas is intimate companionship. In order to establish this relationship, you should be free with me. You should try to be as intimate with me as possible."
So I was sitting at the feet of Baba, just near the dais, and I had kept the diary on the dais at Baba's feet, and I was writing. And Baba was explaining, Baba was exchanging the pleasantries with different groups and teasing people and making them as natural and as comfortable as possible. And then after some time, he looked at me as I was taking down the notes, and you know what he said? Baba said to me that, "Digambar, it is good that you are taking notes, Maybe at some point I will ask you to remind me what I had said earlier, because you know that now I am 60 years old, and after 60 the memory of a man, it starts fading. So that was such a humorous remark, and it touched my heart so much.
And she really came down to the human level, but at the same time reminding regularly, don't forget, I'm the God man.
Baba washed his hands, and then the Pavadigar prayer and the prayer of repentance was read out. The Pune Bhajan group started their ghazals, and Baba started to meet the Sahavasis one by one, asking them personal questions about their lives and creating the intimacy that he wished for. Baba stated,
Drink deep at the fountain of love, but don't lose consciousness. If you taste even a drop of this love, what a wonderful experience you will have.
After the day's program, Baba went back to Merabad at 5 p.m. One week before the Sahavas began, Baba was in Bombay and dictated 7 messages to be displayed at the Sahavas program. According to Baba's instructions, these 7 messages were translated in Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, and Telugu languages and were displayed at various Sahavas sites.
In the beginning of the month, I paid a quick visit to Bombay, which is now known as Mumbai. And when he was there, he was giving darshan to his Bombay lovers there. And when he was there, he spontaneously gave out a few messages. Short and very, very apt and very beautiful. And it seemed Baba was trying to give out these messages in preparation for the forthcoming Sahavas. So when these were given out, Baba said, get these messages painted on boards. So what I'm giving you now, and have these displayed at Merabad when the Sahavas begins. So some 7 messages were given out, and they are beautiful.
And then Baba said, go in the Mandli hall. I have kept all the sayings about what this Sahavas was meant for. Then during the lunchtime, I asked my sister, and I asked, would you like to come in? Let's write down quickly because we will otherwise take a long time. So I and my sister went there with rough paper and a pencil and wrote down all what was on the board. Different, which I still have it. And I hardly can read it because it has become very faint with pencil.
All of this world is waiting to you. All of the heavens are under you. Yes, there are all kinds of loves and so many ways to find you. But there's only one way to hold you. To believe in you, darling Lord, that's to love you, to love you, and to please you. There'll be so many ways to stray from you. so many loves that seem as true. But if we honor you, knowing who you are, then you will guide us to the journey's end. Yes, you will guide us to the journey's end. Yes, there are diamonds and lights in the night, with all kinds of promise that dreams will come true. We are the lambs in the meadow, but wolves in the wood wait nearby. But there's only one way to hold you, to believe in you, darling Lord. May heaven bless you, love you, to love you, to love you, and to please you. There'll be such lovely sights everywhere, but we should keep our eyes only on you, man. For being true to you is what you love, then you will guide us to the journey's end. Yes, you will guide us to the journey's end. But there's only one way to hold you near, to believe in you, darling Lord. May heaven bless you, love you, to love you, to love you, and to please you, to love you, to love you, to love you, and to please you.
Many personal stories have come out of the 1958 Sahavas. Here are just a few of them.
One day it so happened, Baba called a few of us to the cabin where he used to give interviews. Calling a group of about 20 people from Andhra, Baba repeatedly told in the hall, don't borrow money to get a garland and put a garland on my neck. Don't borrow. You come to me into the room freely. I took it very seriously, but a friend of mine, A.C.S. Chari, casually told me in our language, Ramarao, take this 5 rupees, go purchase 3 rupees garland for me and 2 rupees garland for yourself. So the thought was there. Baba said, don't borrow money, but he is giving of his own accord. I am not borrowing. So I purchased 2 garlands. 3 rupees garland I gave to Chari, A.C.S. Chari, and 2 rupees garland I was having in my hands. Baba was using a stick because of that 56 accident, you know. As he was getting into the room, he looked at me in such a serious manner. So when I was just going to garland him or put garland inside, I was looking at his face and I was just shivering, and I put the garland at his feet. He was going inside with that stick, you know, he was having, he threw garland out. So I felt so much of uneasiness, you see, I have not obeyed Baba, and Baba has thrown this garland out. So I started crying. I went back to the tin shed and I was started crying. Nobody observed, I am not in the room. But after meeting about 15 or 16 people, Baba asked, where is Ramarao of Vilaspur? Baba said, Baba, he was here. So everybody was asking, where is Ramarao? Where is Ramarao? So somebody said he was going to Padri Kaka's tin shed backside. So they came, they saw me, I was weeping like anything, you know, like that. So they said, Baba calls you. When I went inside, Baba said, what are you doing? Baba, you have thrown my garland. No, I have not thrown your garland. It is I who have acted through S.S. Chari. It is I who has allowed you to bring that garland to me, and it is I have thrown that garland. Now you forget everything. He gave an embrace, and on that day, Baba tells me, a day will come, you will garland me every day in the morning. See that is how fortunate I am, His amazing grace.
We were all young and robust, and always had to have some kind of a mischief, So this is exactly what happened. It was on the last day, all the Andhra people were singing all the time. And one after another, it was absolutely impossible to sing and sleep at all. So then we said, all right, let them have that time, and we took off to Arangaon village, We come back somewhere about 1 o'clock, having a very leisure walk, And then they are still singing and still singing. So anyway, we took out another 2-3 hours, So what to do, So then Homa was our gang leader, would always suggest something or the other. Says, I will tell you what to do, Says, what is it? Says, just take one chappal or shoes or whatever it is, only one, not both. Out of both, only take one chappal and just fling it over to the tent. So naturally we did that,
So we would pick up one champal from here, throw that side, mix up all the champals, throw some on the pandap also. And when the gathering was over, I'm sorry to say this, but that was the mischief we played. And when they came out, everybody was searching for champals, their shoes. Where are they?
Somebody must have told Baba that this has happened. And Baba was very angry, He was very angry. Says, these guys, they are doing this to my lovers,
So the message reached Baba. So Baba said, it couldn't be anybody but this Bombay group people, youngsters, who have done this trick. So he didn't say anything, we didn't get any message from there. But when we returned home, there was a telegram waiting, Baba scolding us, what have you done?
When Baba came back to Bombay, Baba called us, gave us a good firing. Says, you guys, you do all these things to my lovers. And then everything was over, But sometimes after some years together, we were told by Anavaz or someone says, after you all went, do you know what happened? Because Baba was laughing and laughing and laughing.
Baba gave out many messages during the Sahavas. Baba discoursed on the false I and the real I, opiumized false saints, and other topics. One of the messages Baba gave during the Sahavas came to be known as Baba's wish.
Love means love, and the lover has to keep the beloved always pleased and happy by keeping the wishes of the beloved. These are the wishes of your beloved, if you take me to be your beloved. Do not shirk your responsibilities, such as home, family, office, jobs.
Attend faithfully to your worldly duties, but keep at the back of your mind that all this is Baba's.
When you feel happy, think, Baba wants you to be happy.
When you suffer, think, Baba wants you to suffer.
Be resigned to every situation and think honestly and sincerely, Baba has placed you in this situation.
With the understanding that Baba is in everyone, try to help and serve others.
I tell you, with my divine authority, that whosoever, anyone and everyone, takes my name at the time of breathing their last, comes to me.
Therefore, do not forget to remember me at the time when you breathe your last.
Unless you take my name, remembering me constantly from now on, and keep it up continuously, you cannot remember me and keep my name on your lips when you drop your body.
Even if you take my name once a day with all your heart and soul, it is sufficient.
You will thus ultimately come to me.
The Pune Bhajan Group and the Liberation of CMAB.
I remember that we were told specially to prepare songs for the Sahavas. And in the Bhajan Mandali, there was a lot of commotion because everybody wanted to sing before Baba. So we had done that exercise in Pune itself before we went there. So whenever we got a chance and whenever Baba told us to sing, we would just, communicate with each other, and we would flip through the pages of our songbook, and then we would start with that song, be it a group song or be it a solo song. And then of course Madhusudan and Pratap and all, they will sing very appropriate songs, and Baba appreciated. And after each song was sung, Baba would call us, Baba would appreciate, Baba would make the sign, beautiful, I liked it, I give you my love. And then he would even call us, he would embrace us after the song. And it was also during this period, the Sahavas period, that famous ghazal of Simab was sung. And when this ghazal was sung before Baba, Baba was so much engrossed in the ghazal, and he had closed his eyes, because this ghazal was composed by a great Urdu composer named Simab.
अब क्या बताऊं मैं, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, अब क्या अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या.
Rough translation of that particular ghazal was that Simab was describing what he gained after meeting his beloved, and he says that when I met my beloved master, I gained my object of life. I reached my very destination. I realized everything when I met my beloved.
Sa 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 re sa ni da ni da pa ma 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 ga re sa. अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने, मंजिल मिली मुराद मिली मुद्दुआ मिला, मंजिल मिली मुराद मिली मुद्दुआ मिला, सब कुछ मुझे मिला जो तेरा नक्शा मिला, सब कुछ मुझे मिला जो तेरा नक्शा मिला, मंजिल मिली मुराद मिली मुद्दुआ मिला, मंजिल मिली मुराद मिली मुद्दुआ मिला.
Meeting with my beloved was like verily meeting God in human form.
मिली मुराद मिली मुद्दुआ मिला, सब कुछ मुझे मिला जो तेरा नक्शा मिला, खुद बीन खुद शनास मिला, खुद नुमा मिला, खुद बीन खुद शनास मिला, खुद नुमा मिला, इंसान के भेस में, इंसान के भेस में मुझे अक्सर खुदा मिला, इंसान के भेस में मुझे अक्सर खुदा मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं. क्यों ये खुदा के ढूंढने वाले हैं ना मुराद, क्यों ये खुदा के ढूंढने वाले हैं ना मुराद, गुजरा जो मैं हुदूद खुदी से खुदा मिला, गुजरा जो मैं हुदूद खुदी से खुदा मिला, सीमाब को शगुफ्त न देखा तमाम उम्र, सीमाब को शगुफ्त न देखा तमाम उम्र, कम वक्त जब मिला, कम वक्त जब मिला, हमें गम आशना मिला, कम वक्त जब मिला, हमें गम आशना मिला, अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, अब क्या बताऊं.
And then in the last line he says, the whole of Simab's life has been spent in grieving and sorrow. And even when I met my beloved, it has just led to the ultimate of sorrow, because the separation was always there.
तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला अब क्या बताऊं मैं, तेरे मिलने से क्या मिला, इरफान गम हुआ मुझे दिल का पता मिला.
So even meeting with the darn beloved is like that, or something like that. So when that was sung, Baba stopped the singing and he says, today I've released Simab from illusion. So there was stunned silence everywhere. Just now I've done that. So I've given him liberation. Something like that he said. It was a very profound moment. Everybody clapped and there was a big shout of Avatar Mein Baba Ki Jai. Somebody had been realized here.
On the 17th of February, as well as on the 26th, Baba took the groups up the hill to show them his samadhi.
For ages adrift throughout this world I've wandered, till I laid my head to rest at Merabad. All the dreams that failed and hopes I squandered are the tears with which I kiss the feet of God. Oh, how I've missed you, though I never knew my song was Meher Baba all along. For 1,000 years I've loved you, and I feel that I always will. But for now, I'm waiting on this hill. For 1,000 years I've loved you, and I feel that I always will. But for now, I'm waiting on this hill.
On this hill I have done my universal work. The stone structure on my right was formerly a water reservoir during the First World War. There is a room inside it in which I had sat in seclusion several times in 1924. There was an iron ladder leading to a window which I used to climb to enter and come out of the room. Shortly I'll send you to the place where my body will be kept after I drop it. Inside it is a puka-built crypt, where for 6 months I stayed in seclusion and fasted on only coffee once a day and water. "70 years after I drop my body, this place will turn into a place of pilgrimage, where lovers of God, philosophers, and celebrities will come to pay homage. How fortunate you all are that you are here in my living presence and could come up the hill with me. Those of you who have not seen the tomb should go there now, one by one. See it and pay your respects with a firm resolve that you will try your best to give happiness to others at the cost of your own, and that you will love Baba with all your heart. Having made this resolve, try to follow these 2 things honestly.
Without your smile, my dreaming has no sunrise. My longing is the mansion you have shown, where many beloveds came to dust as one rise, and the face in many mirrors presence is alone. Oh, how illusions in time have passed away. Meher Baba alone will stay. For 1,000 years I've loved you, and I feel that I always will. But for now, I'm waiting on this hill. For 1,000 years I've loved you, and I feel that I always will. But for now, I'm waiting on this hill.
While atop Merabad Hill, Dr. Deshmukh insisted on photographs being taken. Baba did not really want photographs to be taken, but agreed to it, saying, "What is the use of having my photograph on paper? It would be best to establish it in one's heart." Baba decided, since photos had been taken with men in 1955, that he would only take photos with women this time. On February 25th, 1958, Baba's 64th birthday was celebrated with his lovers.
Of course, his lovers, those who had come, they said, "Baba, please allow us to celebrate the birthday." And Baba said, "Yes, all right." Now these Arangaon people, they had come. "Baba, allow us to celebrate your birthday." Now, birthday, Baba allowed. Now, what happens? At Meherabad, after Baba left, they were so busy in decoration. You would never see such decoration as they did that year. It was such a great thing. On the roadside, they had planted this banana trees. Banana trees they had taken. And not only this, but they had decorated their own car. Now, Avatar had no good car, but they just decorated another car. And 3 miles away from Merabad, they went dancing and singing with decorated car for Baba. And on the way, Baba said to Eraj, "As soon as I reach Merabad, you take me to my cabin," where Baba would give interview, and then afterwards I would come out because I had to pass motion. So they had made all arrangement, and Baba's car came. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai, Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Nobody knew that Baba was to pass motion. And they wanted that Baba should occupy the decorated car. So then Jai Jaikar and at the same time singing and dancing.
Blaze lights of victory, blow trumpet of glory, hail Lord of love divine, Meherabad the ancient one. This is his holy day of birth, and this the day of our rebirth. This is the day of joy and mirth, the day to transcend birth and death.
Long live Meher, long live Meher, long live Meher, our Savior. Long live Meher.
Baba had to get down from this car. They lifted him and put in another car. He wanted to pass motion immediately, but no, because they were just dancing and slowly the car, very slow, dancing and singing. It took about more than 2 hours to reach Merabad. And when Baba reached there, so Erach directed to take the car to his private cabin. And when they took him there, then outside, they were all outside. Avatar Meherabad ki jai, Avatar Meherabad ki jai. How the avatar should pass motion. So Baba came out and went to the pandal, the meeting pandal.
Then Baba's car came very slowly driven behind. And then Baba entered the pandal. And again everybody sang happy birthday song in English, Gujarati, Marathi.
Baba's car came all well decorated, and we all carried the tray behind Baba's car following him and singing that Parsi song for happy birthday, which goes like this. Hastu ne ramatu saune gamatu saal mubarak ho jo aaj murado tam tane chahiye nawa asal ma fal jo. Hastu ne ramatu saune gamatu saal mubarak ho jo aaj.
People had gathered in the pandal and Baba was seated on the dais. And for that particular celebration, many of the Baba lovers had been to distant places and they had collected water from the sacred rivers in India. And that water was carried in the pitchers. And these pitchers were held to the bamboo. And these bamboos were slung from the shoulders. And these lovers brought these slings in which this sacred water was there collected from rivers like Godavari and Krishna and Bhima, and that was brought. And that particular day, I remember when Baba came to the pandal, the whole pandal reverberated with Avatar Meherabad ki jai. And Baba was so radiant. And after he had occupied the seat, then this sacred water was placed near him. And it was such a unique event that Baba's feet were washed by the sacred waters of these rivers.
Baba washed his feet in that, and the water was put in that tub. And Baba told us that when you all come here, bow down at me, at my feet, and take a teaspoon and drink it. And we had Sudan and Bharati some yogi who was sitting next to Baba. He said, Baba, I have brought the water from the Ganges. Can I pour it in this also? I felt that Baba was not too happy with it, but he took that jar of water and poured it in that tub. Then Baba told us, now when you come to bow down to me, don't drink the water, dip your hands in that vessel and just run your fingers across the forehead. We were so fortunate that Baba allowed his water from the washing of the feet and we could have it on our foreheads.
On February 26th, the last day of the Sahavas, Baba was driven up Merabad Hill in the afternoon and met with the women Mandali coming from Meherabad. A train which had been specially arranged to stop at Merabad was ahead of schedule and arrived at 4 p.m. Baba and the women Mandali drove down to the tracks to meet the train.
We never attended any Sahavas unless Baba particularly asked Mara, and we went. But he did take us at the tail end of the Sahavas when the last groups were leaving. And it was in Merabad, it was not so windy. But as we traveled closer to Merabad, we could feel, some of the mad winds that you'll get here blowing. And as we got closer, they got stronger and stronger. And we were thinking, what would the people think, just living out there and all this dust and everything blowing. But somehow they took it in the right spirit. And each one said, we love it blowing like that. We want it to blow so that the dust of his footsteps will be taking with us in our clothes. And I said, what a beautiful thought that was. But we reached. Baba took us to Upper Merabad. But as we were going past by the Lower Merabad area, we could see people packing their possessions, their beddings and clothes or whatever it was, their bundles and everything. And, some in bullock carts, some in buses. And there was a lot of activity there. But the car went by, and I don't think that anybody noticed that Baba was in the car. It was exciting to be there and watch them, you know. Then Baba took us to Upper Merabad to wait the right time. The train had just pulled in and had stopped at not at the level crossing, but stopped where at Amartiti that area is open, which Baba crossed so many times in his lifetime, daily, morning and evening, when he would go up and down from Upper Merabad to Lower Merabad, twice a day, in the hot sun, in the dusty wind blowing. And we thought of all that as we went. So we waited in Upper Merabad till the time came that the train would be leaving in a short while, and Baba would be there to see the last group off. There was so much of Baba's love in that train. And Baba was stationed just where the photographers had asked him to be, so that he could be seen and the other camera could focus on the train, the people getting up. And it was such a joyful thing that you could feel that how much Baba had filled their hearts, you know, given them such a full Sahavas, which they will be always remembering and taking with them in their hearts. And we stayed in the car, but we were, you know, so joyful to see Baba's flags flying on both sides in the front of the train. You see, the train was facing towards Daund. It was going in that direction. So most probably it must have been the Andhra group, because they and the Gujarati-speaking group were the last ones who came before the Sahavas ended. But they all saw Baba, and their whole focus was on him. And when the whistle blew for the train to go, as they were going, they would pass by Baba, and each one would be waving and calling out Baba's Jai with such wholehearted force. And Baba would say, go happily, take my love with you. And they truly did, because he had filled their cup of joy to the very brim. And we could feel it, you know, even when they were passing by, we could feel that glow that I have seen on people who had been to India and returned to their homes, either in the west or the east. And as they were going, some of them would be joyously singing Baba's bhajans, others would be waving to him, and Baba was really glowing and happy to see it all.
गाते चलो गाते चलो गाते चलो गाते चलो करते चलो काम करते चलो काम करते चलो काम करते चलो नाम जपते चलो जपते चलो सत्य कहते चलो कहते चलो सत्य कहते चलो कहते चलो झूठ कजते चलो झूठ कजते चलो झूठ कजते चलो झूठ कजते चलो मेहर धन का खजाना बढ़ाते चलो मेहर धन का खजाना बढ़ाते चलो मेहर धन का खजाना बढ़ाते चलो मेहर बढ़ाते चलो
सांसों की माला पे, सांसों की माला पे सिमरू मैं पी का नाम। सांसों की माला पे, सांसों की माला पे सिमरू मैं पी का नाम। एक था साजन मंदिर में, एक था प्रीतम मस्जिद में, सांसों की माला पे, सांसों की माला पे सिमरू मैं पी का नाम। प्रीतम का कुछ दोष नहीं है, वो तो है निर्दोष, वो तो है निर्दोष। प्रीतम का कुछ दोष नहीं है, वो तो है निर्दोष, वो तो है निर्दोष। प्रेम की माला जपते जपते हो गई मैं बदनाम। सांसों की माला पे, सांसों की माला पे सिमरू मैं पी का नाम। प्रेम के रंग में ऐसी डूबी, बन गया एक ही रूप, बन गया एक ही रूप। प्रेम के रंग में ऐसी डूबी,